9 kilograms. This is approximately how much the 7th book from the Harry Potter series would weigh if it is printed in Braille. For those of you who don't know what Braille is the most common form of written language for blind and visually impaired individuals around the world. It is also 10 times more expensive than this, a paperback version of the same book, which only weighs half a kilogram. On top of that, only 5% of books worldwide are available in Braille. Some of you might be wondering, why do I know all of this? Let me tell you a quick story. Around 5 years ago, a close friend of mine who studies computer science at Qatar University had a car accident where he broke his right arm and therefore affected his ability to write in class effectively. And because sometimes I used to skip classes to go hang out with my friends there, don't tell my parents, we got to see firsthand how hard it was for a blind student to have their lecture transcribed into Braille, and how long that took for the lecture to be reproduced using a special printer. A couple of outings, a broken arm, and hours of brainstorming later, it became clear that the visually impaired community was deprived of adequate access to content. So we put together a team. We put together a team, all friends from different backgrounds, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science, to work on a side project and try to solve the problem. For the first couple of months, we wanted to create the equivalent of a Kindle, a Braille Kindle, full-page display of Braille cells. We were so focused on how the technology would work, failing to realize that such a solution would have been extremely expensive. It would have cost on the upwards of $10,000. And at such a price tag, it would have been unattainable for the community. Had we decided to stick to this idea, failure would have been inevitable. Then it was the wearables era. Smart watch, smart shoes, smart everything. So we wanted to make something cool. A glove with a Braille cell underneath the fingertip that could mimic the feeling of the Braille letter. But again, the solution wasn't as perfect as we thought it was, because a wearable would have restricted the movement of the user's finger and therefore affected his or her ability to read effectively. Also, the idea of a glove in itself was bad, because think with me, a glove would make you stand out and look different than everyone around you. So regardless of how effective it was, none of us want something that makes us look like outcasts. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, when we learned our first important lesson. We had to walk in their shoes, walk in our customers' shoes. What do I mean by that? Whether you were trying to build a product, design an app, or help out a friend, you shouldn't just be doing it your own way, or else the outcome will be flawed. You need to put yourself in their seat, listen to negative feedback, and don't get defensive just because you've worked on the idea for so long. They're the receiver, and their feedback is what matters the most throughout the entire process. When you first identify a problem and come up with an initial hypothesis on how to solve it, it's never a straight line to the end goal. It's something more like this, a cycle. You have the hypothesis, you go out and test it, and then go back to tweak your initial hypotheses based on that feedback. The key here is to learn when to pivot and when to preserve. But does any of you really think that we learned from our mistakes back then? We definitely did not walk in their shoes for the first couple of months. And so we took our cool glove idea and ran with it. And that's how we ended up joining a competition by Microsoft called Imagine Cup. We were so excited, so confident we would win. I still remember sitting in this ballroom waiting for the host to go up to the podium and call out our cool name, which was brilliant. But it all came crashing down once this guy, the same host, went up to the podium and called out the name of a different team. Now imagine this. For the next couple of weeks, four depressed teenagers looking up quotes online, sitting by the corniche and contemplating our failure. But as we took a step back, we learned our second lesson, that this was just another failed iteration. It was actually one step closer towards making a product that works. It was okay to fail, but it was not okay to give up. The words of encouragement by everyone around us and how much they believed in the team actually gave us the push to keep going further. But something had to change though. So we decided to regroup, sit together, and try to figure out a roadmap on how we intend on getting to our goal. Our biggest flaw is that none of the co-founders had experience, either directly or indirectly through a friend or a family member, with visual impairment. We still didn't know exactly how Braille was read, what that meant for the user. We had very little information about the existing solutions in the market. Also, we didn't have the needed skills, all of the needed skills to develop a product. But most importantly, the business acumen needed to run a company. So weeks after discussion, we figured out that we had to research, listen, and learn. We had to research a lot more and understand what Braille meant for the user. We had to research and know the existing solutions in the market. We had to go out, sit with experts, listen to their ideas, and gain insight. We had to learn new skills that were essential to building a product. And coming from an engineering background, we had to learn even more skills that were very important to start a company and raise funds. Now, a couple more months down the line, we ended up getting accepted in a tech accelerator by QSTP, Qatar Science and Technology Park, where we got the funds and mentorship needed to build a minimum viable product over the course of 4 months. This is what we had. I know it doesn't look great. Looks like, I don't know, a gun, a walkie-talkie, or maybe even a vape. But the most important thing is that it was fully functional. Yes, it worked. But unfortunately, by the time we had completed the program, we had also graduated university. So time wasn't in our favor. We tried to raise the funds needed to develop the product and have it ready for manufacturing. But we couldn't do it right away. And life moves on. The train doesn't stop. We all needed a job with a stable income. So I got one, and then my friend Rami, who's sitting right there, got married, Mabruk. And speaking of that, our CEO, Abdulrazak, is still holding a grudge because he didn't get invited to the wedding. So, do we give up? Is this the time where we have to let go of the project? But remember, we had learned earlier that giving up wasn't an option. So we decided to always make time for this side project. This meant that for the next year, we had to double down. We had to work remotely, we had to work after hours, and on vacations. Even some of us put their plans on hold for the project, like Abdulrazak, who came back from Dublin and put his PhD on hold. Now, a lot of you are wondering and asking yourselves, could this be enough to have something? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Barnacle, the next big thing in the assistive technology market. Barnacle is short for Braille Monocle. And by the way, I'm really proud of this logo because if you compare it to this one, our initial logo, you can see how far we've come. So what is Barnacle? Like I said, it's the next big thing in the assistive technology market that utilizes the medium of Braille in a novel and patent-pending way in order to give the community the access they deserved. How does it work exactly? As you can see, Barnacle connects to an electronic device over Bluetooth, and then it translates the letters that are on the screen into their Braille equivalent through these pins that move up and down to take the shape of the letter, hence transforming any surface into a Braille paper. Barnacle also has an internal memory, which means that you can store thousands of books on it and walk with a library right in your pocket. So far, we've raised $300,000, and we won Challenge 22 by the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy back in 2017. We also got awarded the best assistive technology startup in the MENA region. And most importantly, we're closer than ever to having Barnacle manufactured and in the hands of every visually impaired individual. Now, we were also exhibiting a couple of months back at the Consumer's Electronics Show, which is one of the biggest shows for electronics back in Las Vegas. And we had interest by a very, very famous blind celebrity who may have won, or may have not, won lots and lots of Grammys. You can guess his name. But unfortunately, he wanted to try out the device. But unfortunately, this guy, our CEO, had to use the bathroom. So we just ended up with a note. Now, remember when we first encountered the problem, we felt bad. Like, we felt bad and sorry for the blind students and what they have to go through. We probably thought about helping out for a couple of days by volunteering some of our time. Unfortunately, this is what most of us would do. We fall into the sympathy trap. And then later on, we carry on with our lives. But as you take a step back to reflect on the situation, you'll understand that the key to helping others is leaving a long-lasting impact by enabling them to reach their full potential. That's why I'd like to leave you with the last and most important take-home lesson. Don't sympathize, empower. Now, the next time you find yourself in front of a problem, try to think of how you can contribute towards a solution. Take the initiative, build a team, put a team together, split your roles, and take calculated risks. You're not expected to leave everything at the start for things to work out for you. Just put in the time and effort until you see the idea through. And honestly, even if you don't, and things don't work out in the end, you wouldn't have lost anything. You would have only gained memorable experiences, met brightful minds, learned new skills, and grew as an individual. So thank you so much for listening, and good luck on your next venture.